Being a parent can stir up all sorts of emotions, and that includes endless worrying. But when are you overthinking, and when should you actually be concerned about your kid's health? Well, here to tell us when to worry and when to relax is family physician Dr. Melissa Grelo. Doctor, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
I was saying before that we talk about stuff like this upstairs all the time. When is it important to nudge your child out of their comfort zone? When is it important to pay attention? When is it important to think it's just a phase? Or when should we take action? So I've got a number of scenarios here. I'm going to lay them out for you, and then you can tell me what we should do. So let's begin with the first scenario. My 7-year-old son has always been quiet and reserved. Lately, he gets so worried and upset when I suggest a play date. Is this a phase, or should I be concerned?
So it seems like the question here is whether or not he's just shy, or if this is an indication of a deeper issue like an anxiety disorder. So in terms of some parents, they're so extroverted, they want their kids to be social butterflies just like themselves, so they push them, to push past normal behaviors like being shy with new people or wanting to play by themselves sometimes. When it becomes an issue, some red flags for it would be if, say, they stop doing things or they're anxious to do things that they used to like doing before, like socializing with familiar friends, or if they're having trouble sleeping or their school performance is suffering because of it.
So those would be some red flags. But so you're saying if they regress a little bit, because the kids are shy. Kids can begin as shy, and you gotta help them get out of that. But you're saying if there's other issues to pay attention.
That's right.
All right. Here's another one. My 2-year-old kid seems to talk less than other toddlers in his playgroup. Should I be concerned? Now, I always used to say, like, your child at some point will speak, and hitting those benchmarks when other kids do, comparing them to other kids, isn't necessarily healthy. But what do you say to that?
Well, I hear this question all the time, and questions like it from parents, because let's face it, we parents are competitive sometimes, and also it's natural, to worry when your kid doesn't seem to be measuring up to other children. So this is why we rely on something called milestones. So these are kind of the minimum standards that your child should meet at a certain age. So for a 2-year-old, that would be, stringing together 2 words or more at one time and having at least about 50 words in his vocabulary. So if he's not meeting this milestone, then I wouldn't hesitate to book an appointment with his doctor to either get a hearing test or other assessment to be sure that he doesn't have an issue with his development.
I remember when my kids were young, they weren't crawling, they were dragging themselves on the floor. And at first we were worried, and then we realized, well, we had hardwood floors all over our house, and it would hurt their knees. So they would just pull themselves. They would do the commando crawl.
Right.
So I think sometimes you gotta just relax a little bit.
That's right.
All right, here's another one. My 14-year-old daughter recently became vegetarian. Some days, all it seems like she's eating are raw vegetables, bread, and tofu. When do I start to worry if she's getting proper nutrition or not?
Well, if your child is eating food from most food groups most days of the week, then chances are that she's getting proper nutrition. And one other thing about vegetarian diets is that some research does show that plant-rich diets can be healthier than others, if you do them properly. Now, in terms of red flags for this sort of thing, it would be, we start to worry about eating disorders, in this age group.
At that age, we're worried about body dysmorphia and all sorts of things, all those buzzwords that we've heard growing up.
That's right. So if she's starting to really obsess about how healthy the food she is eating is, or counting calories, or losing weight or fatigue, then for sure have her assessed by her doctor.
All right, let's move on to the next one. My 8-year-old son's teacher called me yesterday to tell me that he's been bullying other kids. I asked him about this, and he told me that he's been hitting, biting, and kicking classmates who are mean to him. So how do I know if this is normal? And this is a big one for parents these days. Bullying is a very big one.
Yes. Well, consistency is what's key here. So if he's bullying, all kids, then that's a concern. But if he gets along with some kids and not others, it could just be that that's one group that he has trouble with. Of course, we want to reinforce that physical aggression is never the way to respond to verbal taunts, and to try more constructive ways of dealing with it, like walking away or ignoring it. But some red flags for aggression in kids this age would be if, say, they're at home, they're also aggressive. So acting out without remorse, or having frequent emotional outbursts, or if they're directing violence towards themselves or property or animals, I would for sure have them assessed at that point.
And is that a conversation at that point? Do you bring the school into that as well, and the other parents as well?
I would definitely talk to the school and see what situations he's acting out in, what exactly the acting out is, and possibly what the contributions from other kids could be.
All right. Here's another one. Whenever my 5-year-old gets sick, she gets a fever for a few days. I've heard that high fevers can cause brain damage, so I always give her medication to bring her temperature down. Is this something I should worry about?
This is another really common question I get. So parents obsess about the number on the thermometer as opposed to how their kid is looking otherwise. So we doctors are more concerned about what other behaviors the kid is showing. So if your child has had a fever for fewer than 72 hours, is eating and drinking okay, and behaving mostly okay, then I wouldn't be too concerned.
So if they're just running a low fever and they might be a little lethargic and they're staying in bed, but they're responsive, they're communicating, they have all the other things, then that's not something to worry about.
Typically, usually. But if the fever is lasting for too long or they're having trouble hydrating, definitely bring them in to see someone. And in terms of the question about brain damage, it's more if your temperature goes over 42 degrees, and that's really rare, unless there's another situation like you're in a hot car or overdressed when you have a high fever.
And if they're at 42 degrees, they are not going to be the responsive child that we were just discussing.
That's right. They'll look quite sick.
It's I remember when my kids were that age, that was the scariest time, because there's certain medications you can't give those kids as well. So as a parent, you feel, if I could just give them regular Tylenol or something like that, but that's not available to you at that point. So parents do feel bootstrapped. Then they go to the internet, and that can make things worse.
That's right. Yeah. Stay away. Stay away.
Stay away. Talk to a physician.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being here, doctor. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.